Celebrating 49 years on the air, award-winning Farm Week is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, an encore special report in the Mississippi Delta, a balancing act. In Southern gardening, think of it as the late show, color in the landscape, even this time of year. And speaking of this time of year, how about a little pumpkin action, huh? We head to Half Moon Bay. And back on our special report, turns out a flood can actually be a good thing. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Great to have you with us again here on Farm Week. This week, an encore special Farm Week report all about a precious balancing act in the Mississippi Delta. This report is born out of a collaborative research project years in the making, and ultimately looks at how a relatively simple change in ag practices could reap huge benefits to farmers, wildlife, and the environment. We begin, as you might expect, with the big picture.
Historically, there have been times when farms and conservation have been at odds.
As humans, we have almost doubled the amount of nitrogen available to the globe.
When it rains, just by the nature of there being more fertilizer on the landscape, the rain can transport that to aquatic systems.
If I can keep my soil in Sunflower County and not send it down to New Orleans, everybody's happier.
Hello, I'm Mike Russell. Welcome to this Farm Week special report. Land in the Mississippi Delta is known for its fertile soil, supplying the nation with food and other agricultural resources. Modern farming practices have graded and fertilized land to precision, creating a perfect mix of soil conditions for growing. But when these soil nutrients escape the land on which they were placed, they can wreak havoc with the environment. In 2018, more than 115,000 metric tons of nitrates flowed down the Mississippi River into the Gulf of Mexico. There they threatened a diverse ecosystem far removed from the flatlands of the Central Delta.
My grandmother's people were some of the first settlers in this area, and really before it was Indianola, I think they called it Sunflower. It was just a small family farm, and it, at that point, was a lot of cows and some row crop. Over the years, my father and the farm labor did a lot of the clearing of the land. He did kind of the original land forming job on a lot of the fields so that he could irrigate. That's been kind of one of the biggest changes, is getting everything land leveled and then precision land leveled. All of this land is precision land leveled.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Sandifer from Belzona, Mississippi, and we farm here corn and soybeans. We have operations for wildlife and conservation. We've been farming all our lives, so that's what we've been doing.
It's a low margin business in the best of times, and when the markets are really low or the weather is really bad, it's a no margin business.
I can say it's not easy in these times. These times are so hard, but it's always been like that. You know, my great uncle farmed, my dad farmed, and I mean, I've heard about these times, so that's why you always try to be prepared. So your your unit sits down on the road.
There's not a producer out there who's not really focused on managing soil, managing water, and all of those elements combined to produce a crop every year. What's important to consider is that a production system and the management thereof is really different for every producer, and that's different based on the resources that are available to them, whether that's financial resources and capital investment, time, equipment, labor, things that all are integral to the production system, and a lot of times those are limiting. Right now, for a producer who also needs to be an engineer and a broker and really innovative in so many ways, making a profit can be tricky, and input costs are really high.
So it's a complicated picture, but one answer just might be simpler than you'd expect. We'll have more on that a little later in the show.
If you love gardening as much as many of our folks here at MSU Extension, you're eager to create color in the landscape, even at this time of year. Here's Eddie Smith with 3 varieties that, with just a little care, will give you just that.
One of the joys of gardening here in the South is filling our landscapes with plants that have bold, colorful blooms. Today on Southern Gardening, let's take a look at a few standouts that bring excitement to our gardens. First up is the Cassandra plant, also known as firecracker flower. With its clusters of bright orange blooms that almost glow in the sunlight, this tropical plant lives up to its name. The flowers are arranged in a pinwheel shape, layered like a tiny bouquet, and they bloom continuously when given warmth and moisture. The glossy green leaves provide a lush backdrop, making this plant a real eye-catcher in borders, containers, or tucked into mixed beds. Next are the ever-reliable lantanas. These beauties come in a kaleidoscope of colors. Each bloom is actually a tight cluster of tiny florets, and together they form a ball of color that butterflies just can't resist. Lantanas love our southern heat and sunshine, and once established, they handle drought with ease. For bold and dramatic texture, celosia brings something special. Plume celosia, with its feathery spires of red and pink, adds height, texture, and plenty of drama to flower beds and containers. And finally, for a late season show, Lespedesia bicolor, also called bush clover, puts on a spectacular display. This shrub sends out graceful arching stems that can be covered in hundreds of pea-like blossoms in shades of rose purple. In full bloom, it looks like a fountain of flowers cascading down. All of these plants show just how beautiful a southern garden can be. I'm Eddie Smith. I look forward to seeing you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a break right here, but don't go away. Coming up in our Farm Week feature, more of our special report, Balancing Act. We go deeper into Dr. Jason Hoeksema's collaborative research project along the Sunflower River in the Mississippi Delta. It's a unique way of looking at stewardship, and it's a dialogue between scientists and farmers who are all concerned about water quality and soil. More of Balancing Act. That's coming up on Farm Week. Don't go away.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believe in my own work and in the opportunity I have to make my life useful to humanity. I believe that education is a lifelong process, and the greatest university is the home. That my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families that I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believe that education, of which extension work is an essential part, is basic in stimulating individual initiative, self-determination, and leadership. I believe that these are the keys to democracy, and that people, when given facts they understand, will act not only in their self-interest, but also in the interest of society. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance towards the views of others. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Linus from Peanuts always has plans to wait for the Great Pumpkin, or he could go visit the UK's Patton twins, Stuart and Ian, for their world record pumpkin of more than 2,800 pounds. Genetics are certainly helpful, but patience and luck help, especially if you're headed to Half Moon Bay. Josh Bittner has more.
All right, are you guys ready? Travis Ginger of Minnesota, here you go. What do we got? 2471, 2471.
After another cross-country haul, the current giant pumpkin world record holder fell short of his 2,749-pound feat from 2023, but still managed to top the scales last year at the annual Half Moon Bay, California World Championship Pumpkin Weigh-Off. It's a meticulous feat he's achieved 4 of the past 5 years, competing with mostly West Coast growers.
I'm using a lot of biologicals, mycorrhiza, bacillus blends when I'm burying these vines in a special blend of potting soil, and then the roots just scream out the side.
Often referred to as the Super Bowl of giant pumpkins,
He's going to get a check for $22,000.
Half Moon Bay touts big prize money. $9 per pound for first place and up to $30,000 for setting a new world record. Ginger fell short this year when his potential prize winner split in the field. Last year's second place winner moved up to claim top prize.
You're not going into it thinking, hey, I'm going to make a profit or something like that. But if you do, that's a bonus, right? It's really for the camaraderie of the community of growers. Everybody shares the secrets and shares the growing tips and shares seeds.
Trading seeds is important, and we always prepare to invite new growers. It's like me, you know, we always carry them and then just hand them out.
Decades ago in Mexico, University of Michigan archaeologists unearthed the earliest known proof of Western agriculture, pumpkin-related squash seeds. When Christopher Columbus arrived, they were a common indigenous crop with several varieties native to the Americas. Shipping them all back to Europe resulted in various cultural connotations, and larger tropical and subtropical specimens began to realize further potential when unleashed in northern soils. But it was William Warnock of Goderich, Ontario, Canada, who kicked the door wide open, growing World's Fair records in 1893 and 1900. Long before the Gateway Arch graced the city's skyline, lightning struck a third time as Warnock notched his final world record in St. Louis.
This is an exhibit that explores the history of the 1904 World's Fair. It's one of the largest events in St. Louis's history. Over 19 million people came to St. Louis to visit the World's Fair and to see people and products and ideas from all over the world.
Missouri public historian Adam Kloppe says Warnock's crowd-pleasing 403-pound mammoth squash, or giant pumpkin, was a record that held for over 70 years.
After the fair, it was bought by the Rennie Seed Company of Toronto for $10, and then they sold the seeds for 25 cents under the name Goderich Giant.
Though Pennsylvanian Bob Ford grew a 451-pounder in 1976, it was another Canadian, Howard Dill of Windsor, Nova Scotia, who broke the dam for the modern era. Dill's father had given Goderich Giant seeds a whirl and passed the torch to Howard. After logging 459 and 493.5-pound world records in 1980 and 81, respectively, Howard patented his selectively bred Dill's Atlantic Giants, the genetic basis for all world record giant pumpkins today.
You never know who's out there. It's going to come up big, and with the seeds, there's no limit to what the potential of these things may grow to. And if somebody has a little bit of luck and a good growing season, who's to know?
Growers jumped on the bandwagon, associations formed, and standards were drawn up to coordinate Columbus Day weigh-offs at sites in the U.S., UK, and Canada.
Howard was a really nice fella. He would always take the time to talk to you. And I know he was a busy man because he told me once, everybody was constantly reaching out to him. The phone never quit ringing.
Infighting gave birth to a new standard bearer, the Great Pumpkin Commonwealth, or GPC. Anamosa, Iowa's Memorial Ryan Norland Weigh-Off, named in honor of co-founder Tom Norland's nephew and helper, was one of the early sanctioned sites.
We were always told that we were probably not going to be able to grow as large of pumpkins as they were growing in southern Canada, New England, Minnesota, But that has proved really not to be the case.
Norland has since stepped aside, but his brother Greg and family have continued to build and honor their son Ryan's memory.
This is one of the original 4 sites. I mean, winning Anamosa, that's like top notch right there.
The pumpkin master, his knuckles are white on the wheel.
Sanctioned sites, grower methods, and plant genetics have grown exponentially since the 1980s.
The official weight, 1,933.5 pounds.
World records have been broken almost 30 times.
This is all just witchcraft anyway, but there's a little bit of vibration here, but more so, yeah. It's gonna weigh more than it estimates.
Iowan and GPC Hall of Famer Don Young, who fell short of an official 2007 world record by just 27 pounds, says he was the first Midwesterner crazy enough to venture out and win Half Moon Bay. That 2009 milestone was a calculation based in part around the kind of bluffing and misdirection some growers are known for.
It's chess.
On Young's heels, Pete Kaspers holds Iowa's state record, 2,424 pounds. He regularly captures top spots at regional weigh-offs, which promote unique festivities and help boost local economies.
Oh my goodness!
Don Young, he was Mr. Iowa that we had before Don Young. It was Bob Ruff from Garnavillo, Iowa. I mean, they're both in books, and it's like it's kind of my turn, I think.
As Kaspers claws his way up the food chain, Half Moon Bay is on his bucket list. Database technology may have made simultaneous same-day worldwide weigh-offs go by the wayside, but the prestige remains.
And when the work's all through, you'll have a pumpkin that you grew.
So what's the giant pumpkin equivalent of I'm going to Disneyland?
Yeah, this is the giant pumpkin of going to Disneyland.
Ride a night and day out to Half Moon Bay.
Now back to Balancing Act, our special report. Earlier, we met the key players in the Mississippi Delta, where a unique research project was born. Now we go deeper, picking up with my asking a key question that's the basis of the project itself. Agricultural profitability can often be a game of inches. Every square foot matters to farmers trying to make a living. But it's a balancing act. Every acre of Delta land in production is an acre that's not available for conservation and wildlife. But what if there was a way to maintain fields for ag use while providing valuable wetlands and reducing erosion through the non-growing season? Dr. Jason Hoeksema and a team of state and federal researchers are looking into how one simple change might make a world of difference.
Mississippi Delta farmers and farms are really important for efforts to feed the world, not only our part of the world, but the corn and soybeans and other products that come from the Mississippi Delta feed big parts of our country and other parts of the world. The way that agriculture has been practiced traditionally in the Mississippi Delta, there are some potential downstream consequences of it that we should be concerned about.
Well, the only way to ensure maximum yields on a farm is to fertilize. There's quite a bit of nitrogen put on the landscape globally to maintain the yields needed to feed a growing global population.
When it rains, just by the nature of there being more fertilizer on the landscape, the rain can transport that to aquatic systems. And I think one of the main concerns there is the development of algal blooms.
And that has been shown to contribute to the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico, which has consequences not only for wildlife and ecosystems, but for people as well.
Being a farmer, it's always been about balance because nature's in charge a lot, and runoff and the wildlife, it works together. It's always worked together for me.
I mean, you've got to take care of your place. You've got to take care of your land. I mean, it's just like your fertility. You've got to spend money to put into it so that it will be productive. Stewardship is primarily about self-preservation, but the offshoot of that is it's also good for the broader world and the broader environment. If I can keep my soil in Sunflower County and not send it down to New Orleans, everybody's happier.
But oftentimes conversations about agriculture production and conservation can be in conflict with each other, and the reality is that what's happening on the landscape is an integrated system. And so it's putting these pieces together. So we look at the landscape a little bit differently, the role of soil function beyond crop production, as well as the other ecosystem services it can provide.
Everybody's concerned with, water quality and soil quality, and that's what makes a farm. Without that, we're not. If we don't take care of it, we're not going to be able to keep growing these crops.
Keeping fertilizers and other nutrients on the land where they are placed is key to reducing river runoff downstream. Dr. Hoeksema's project along the Sunflower River encourages farmers to temporarily flood their fields at the end of the growing season. These temporary wetlands serve as a barrier to runoff, retaining the soil during the rainy off-season while also promoting beneficial microbial activity. The project is a way to understand just how beneficial these wetlands may be for both the land and for the birds that use the Delta as a stopover on their long trek south for the winter.
Literally millions of migratory birds pass through the Mississippi Delta every year. The Delta is potentially a really valuable stopover site for a lot of those birds to refuel. So the Sunflower River Project, its goal is to explore basically what happens when we create temporary wetlands on crop fields. So we work with farmers to find a way to put water back out onto the crop fields after the crop harvest in the fall, to do that in a way that doesn't interfere too much with farm operations, but also in a way that may help migratory water birds.
This is our second year in the project, and they're really doing some studies for how the flooding that we're doing for the shorebirds is, interconnected with crop yields.
The reason we focused on the Sunflower River Basin is because there's been a lot of work in that region to develop infrastructure on farms called tailwater recovery systems, which is a series of leveling of fields and berms and ditches that allow the farmers to capture water that runs off those fields, pump it into an on-site reservoir, and reuse it. We were already grappling with the problem of how to get farmers interested in potentially, making this habitat for birds. The fact that it could have additional benefits, not only for the environment, but even for farms and farmers, it hadn't dawned on me, and it was very exciting because it made it seem like this could really happen on a larger scale.
A unique project, to say the least. Well, next week, more about the implications of the project.
We'll conclude our special report, and we'll learn more about how the flooding is coordinated and then how the bird habitat is analyzed afterwards. We'll discover that for all the benefits of the project, there's a cost, and there's the inevitable rush to analyze the pros and cons during a race against time before the next season's planting begins.
The conclusion of Balancing Act next time on Farm Week.
Before we go, it's a question that has baffled the University of Montana community in Missoula for the past 30 years. Who's been putting a pumpkin on top of Main Hall each homecoming?
It first appeared in 1995 after the football team won its first FCS championship. It has since become a homecoming symbol. Now, members of the local climbing community say they know people who have actually made the difficult climb, but until someone comes forward, the mystery behind it lives on.
Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next week. Thanks for watching.